In a lively village nestled beside a calm river, there lived a young man named Hiroshi. Hiroshi was full of dreams and ambitions, but he was paralyzed by the fear of failure. He believed that any mistake would ruin his chances of success and happiness. One morning, with a heavy heart and a mind filled with doubt, Hiroshi decided to seek the wisdom of Sensei Aiko, a revered Zen master known for her profound insights and simple yet powerful teachings. Sensei Aiko lived in a serene monastery atop a nearby hill, a place where many sought guidance. "Sensei," Hiroshi said, bowing deeply when he arrived at the monastery, "I am afraid of failure. I want to achieve great things, but the fear of making mistakes holds me back. How can I overcome this fear?" Sensei Aiko gave him a warm smile, and invited him to sit by her side in the monastery's peaceful garden. The garden was filled with vibrant flowers, tall trees, and a small pond with koi fish swimming gracefully. "Hiroshi," she began, "let me tell you a story. Many years ago, in a small village much like this one, there was a young potter named Kenji. Kenji was passionate about creating the most beautiful pottery, but he was plagued by the fear of making mistakes. He believed that every pot he crafted had to be perfect, and the thought of failure terrified him. One day, while working in his studio, Kenji noticed an elderly man watching him from the doorway. The man was dressed in simple robes and had an air of calm wisdom about him. He introduced himself as Sensei Yudo, a wandering Zen master. "Young potter," Sensei Yudo said, "I see you are diligent in your work, but I also see the fear in your eyes. Why do you fear failure so much?" Kenji, feeling a mix of embarrassment and curiosity, replied, "I want to create perfect pottery, Sensei. I fear that any mistake will ruin my work and my reputation." Sensei Yudo nodded thoughtfully. "Come with me," he said. He led Kenji to a nearby river where a small boat was moored. They boarded the boat and drifted to the center of the river. Sensei Yudo handed Kenji a small pebble. "Drop this pebble into the water," Sensei Yudo instructed. Kenji did as he was told, and the pebble created ripples that spread across the surface of the river. "Do you see the ripples, Kenji?" Sensei Yudo asked. "Each ripple represents a failure or mistake. They spread out, but eventually the water returns to its calm state. Just as the river absorbs the ripples, we too can absorb our failures and learn from them. They do not define us, they shape us." Kenji listened intently, beginning to understand the lesson. Sensei Yudo continued, "Failure is not something to be feared. It is a teacher, a necessary part of growth. Without it, we cannot learn, adapt, or improve." Sensei Aiko paused, letting the story sink in. Hiroshi was deeply moved by the tale and the imagery of the ripples on the water. "But Sensei," Hiroshi asked, "how can I apply this lesson to my own life?" Sensei Aiko smiled and led Hiroshi to a small workshop within the monastery. Inside, there was an incomplete clay pot on a wheel, surrounded by shards of broken pottery. "Watch closely, Hiroshi," Sensei Aiko said, beginning to shape the clay pot. As she worked, the pot wobbled and collapsed. Hiroshi winced at the sight, but Sensei Aiko remained calm and started over with the same clay. Each time the pot collapsed, she patiently reshaped it. After several attempts, Sensei Aiko finally molded the clay into a beautiful sturdy pot. "Do you see, Hiroshi?" she asked, holding the completed pot. "This pot was not created without failure. Each collapse taught me something about the clay, about my technique, about what needed to be adjusted. The failures were not setbacks, they were necessary steps in the creation of something beautiful." Hiroshi watched in awe as Sensei Aiko placed the pot among other finished pieces, each one unique and exquisite. "Failure is like the shaping of this clay," Sensei Aiko continued. "It is not an end, but a process of learning and refining. Each failure brings you closer to your goal, teaching you resilience, patience, and the wisdom to adjust your approach. Without failure, we cannot create something truly remarkable." Inspired by her words, Hiroshi felt a profound shift within himself. He realized that his fear of failure had been hindering his growth more than any actual failure ever could. He understood that failure was an integral part of the journey to success. Remember, like the clay that becomes a beautiful pot through repeated attempts, we too can find value in our failures. Embrace failure as a necessary part of growth and learning. It is through our mistakes that we shape our path to success.